That's a lot of work. Writing music. Stephen J. Schwartz, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you all. And thank you, Todd and Rob Roberge for being my thesis guys. And I want to thank everyone at UCR, everyone I've worked with, Mary Otis and Bill Rapkin and Anthony McCann and Deanne Stillman and everyone. It's been fantastic. It's been a great experience. I'm going to miss it terribly. But today we're going to talk about music. So, 4th grade came around, and we had this music teacher come into our class, and she said, okay, I want all you kids to go home tonight and find whatever musical instruments your parents have and bring something in tomorrow because we're going to start a band. So, this is 4th grade. Can anyone find the Schwartz in the crowd? Find the Schwartz? Anyone? No.
Lady on the right?
Where is that the Schwartz? No. Where? Left or right? There's the Schwartz, right there. Okay, so my dad did not have a drum set or an electric guitar or a Moog synthesizer. He had a clarinet, and that's what I ended up with. And that's what I had to stick with for quite a while. But by the way, I had a crush on Maud. This is the only time she ever looked at me. The only time. This girl over here ended up going to, Angela, she went to Harvard with Obama, believe it or not. So she got the good gene. Anyway, so I started on clarinet in 4th grade, but the next year, in 5th grade, this guy here, Robert, ended up bringing a movie camera into class, a regular rate movie camera, and we decided we'd make films together. So this is what I had to work with, all right, when I was a kid. Regular rate spring wound movie camera right there, and then this is the Selectric. I don't know if anyone recognizes this. Okay, Selectric. So I had these two passions growing up. I had filmmaking and writing and music, and I kind of thought I had an advantage with music because there's actual instruction I can get in New Mexico for music, not really for filmmaking. So I figured I'd go to music school, and I went to a place called North Texas State University, which is a really awesome jazz school. If you've seen the movie Whiplash, that's kind of like the program. I was there for 1 year before I realized that, God, I can't do this shit. And I really am more of a writer and filmmaker than a musician. So I left North Texas State University, and I went and came to California, and I got in film school and started writing screenplays and getting involved in that, writing short stories too. But one thing that I discovered as I became more of a writer was that I was in love with the sound of a sentence as much as I was in love with what a sentence had to say. And I realized that music, over time, over many years, I kind of looked back at my style, and I realized that music was a fundamental component of my development as a writer. Okay? I realized that words, when spoken, produce rhythm. It can't be helped. Words on a page are sounds to the ear. Consonants and vowels create rhythm and meter. In musical terms, these rhythms are represented as slow, melodic phrasing called the legato, or abrupt, short phrasing called staccato. So if you look at a handful of words, let's look at something like tick-tock. That's consonants, all consonants, tick-tock. So it emphasizes that staccato, and I've represented it in 2 eighth notes. If you look at a word like mellow, that emphasizes the long vowels, the L-O. And you can represent it in legato as 2 quarter notes, mellow. And you can have a single word that has both consonants and vowel sounds, and it can be staccato and legato, like piccolo. You've got pic-o-lo. So the pic is the staccato, o-lo is the legato, and in one word you've got piccolo. Okay? What's unique about a word like piccolo is that it is also a natural triplet. Okay, so we're going to learn a little bit about triplets and how you can use triplets in your writing. Triplets, look at my notes here. Triplets, they beg to move forward when you say something like a triplet, like piccolo. It wants to have a resolution in a single sustained beat, which could be a quarter note or a whole note or a half note. It wants to land somewhere to give this escalating rhythm a place to rest. 2 or more triplets can often be strung together to give even a greater sense of urgency. So if you look at a sentence like, holding my piccolo high, that can be represented as 2 triplets and a quarter note. Holding my piccolo high. Holding my piccolo high. You've got you kind of feel that escalating rhythm of the triplets leading to some place. That some place can be a quarter note, it can be a half note, anything that kind of high, because it's an open-ended vowel. It can be as long a note as you want it to be. Now, this same sentence could be written differently and not as musically sounding. Holding my piccolo in the air, okay? I think we might be able to agree that it just doesn't sound quite as good, it isn't as snappy as holding my piccolo high, holding my piccolo in the air. It's kind of like diffusing that sense of escalation that we've created with the two triplets. So what you want to kind of look for when you're trying to kind of write musically is look for vowels and consonants. Look for legato and staccato. The vowels would be legato, consonant, staccato, and look for something, triplets, to create escalating rhythm and resolution. Now, what I'm talking about here also is not something you do every time you write. This is a tool you can use to help create more of a musicality in your writing, or to identify something that's musical, or maybe just choose different words in your writing when you're doing your final draft of something, your final rewrite. When I write something, I go back in my 4th or 5th or 6th rewrite of something. That's when I get to go back and actually have fun and play with the sounds of words to create a better sense of rhythm and musicality in my sentences. So it's not something, it's just a kind of a tool you can use. A writer who pays attention to the musicality of his sentences tends to reread his work, most likely out loud, looking for opportunities to rewrite sentences that don't produce a natural musical cadence. So let's look at a couple of selections here. So from Naked Lunch, William S. Burroughs, this is an example of a sentence that really uses a lot of open vowels. It's a very legato phrase. I can feel the heat closing in, feel them out there making their moves, setting up their devil doll stool pigeons, crooning over my spoon. Okay, very lyrical. Let's look at a selection from Justin Schwartz, We the Animals. This is a very staccato, consonant-heavy sentence. We knocked the butt ends of our forks against the table, tapped our spoons against our empty bowls. Okay. Now, if you look at both of these samples, they both use the word spoon, which is kind of an open vowel word, spoon. It's even though it's got the spook kind of sound at the beginning, it's really a legato word, and Burroughs emphasizes this with stool and crooning over my spoon. It's that same sound going all the way through this phrase, so it's really quite lyrical. Even though this is kind of an open-sounded vowel word, spoons, it's surrounded by staccato words. Knocked, but, forks, against, table, tapped, against, empty bowls. So a lot of staccato around that, and the word spoons itself, the way it's used in this sentence, it's actually used as drumsticks. So the visual that they give you, that Justin gives you, is that the spoons are drumsticks being tapped against empty bowls. So that again emphasizes the staccato. You can also do some wonderful juxtaposition of staccato and legato phrasing in a paragraph, like Kerouac's selection here from the Dharma Bums. I want to swim in rivers and drink goat milk and talk with priests and just read Chinese books and amble around the valleys, talking to farmers and their children. Swim in rivers, real open voweled legato. Drink goat milk. Okay, so here's legato and staccato juxtaposed right next to one another. Paying attention to the rhythm of words and their placement within the body of a sentence is what is necessary to write with an ear for music. Each syllable in a word is a musical beat, each sentence a musical phrase, each chapter a stanza, and the novel a symphony. So let's look at some other kind of cool sentences. This is one of my very favorite sentences that I opened the lecture with Warren Zevon's Werewolves of London. This is a phenomenal sentence. I love this sentence. Little old lady got mutilated late last night. Okay. Now, there's nothing going on melodically in this phrase. In the song itself, it modulates by one note. Little old lady got mutilated late last night. So there's this, like, all it is rhythm. It's a sentence of rhythm. And the sentence itself tells the listener how to speak it in his mind, his or her mind. You know, it's musically, the sentence basically, it writes itself. Little old lady got mutilated late last night. So you've got the two triplets, two escalating triplets, little old lady got, triplet, triplet, little old lady got, mutilated late last night. So what's interesting here is you're building to this what is essentially a quarter note, two tight eighth notes is a quarter note. So it's a rest moment, a place where you can resolve this escalating rhythm, but you're getting there bit by bit. You're speeding up, little old lady got mutilated late last night. Mutilated, so by doing the 4/8 notes here, again slowing down the phrase to late last night. And by using, again, by the word choices, by using late last night, that actually gives you that sound of well, it's on the upbeat of the measure. So like you get 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Late last night. So what that's doing is it's kind of driving it out even further, the resolution of that sentence. And again, that's the choice of the words. The late and the last are long vowel words that extend the notes of that sentence and drag it out to the rest. It sounds like complicated stuff, but it really isn't. It's when you develop an ear for rhythm, musically, and you practice it a bit, it does just kind of come naturally after a while. Some things will sound right, some things will sound wrong. That sentence, a reader doesn't have to have studied music theory in order to read it musically. It writes itself, it speaks itself to you. Let me slip back here. So let me chat a little bit here. I'm through my notes. So we've been told that good writing cannot be taught, but it can be influenced. And the study of music and how it applies to writing can influence and improve a writer's style. So in the Musicality of Language, an application of musical analysis to speech and writing, published in the Journal of Musical Meaning, musicologist Runane Fanani, okay, this is tough stuff here, try to say that musically, examines the musicality of prose. In the study of language and writing, there are countless reasons and ways of analyzing styles of writing that determine what makes one good and another not so good. But an extremely important factor contributing to the success, so to speak, of a phrase or saying is one that is more often associated with music, the rhythm. It should be noted that in analysis of writing, meter is a key factor, especially in poetry, and punctuation, sentences, and grammar are, in effect, the equivalent of groups of notes, rests, and phrases in musical notation. There's no person that I know that really kind of captures music in writing better than my man, Jack Kerouac. I'm a big fan. And what he did was, he was influenced by these cats, Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Thelonious Monk, George Shearing. These were the bebop jazz players of his day, of the 1950s. And their improv solos sounded like stories just sung from their souls. I mean, they're excellent musicians, they knew their craft, and the art of improvisation in music is to, you play a melody, everybody knows, and then you break for these improv solos. And these guys would just jam, right, on their saxophones and trumpets. And Kerouac wanted to capture that. He, as an author, he wanted to just be able to create what he called spontaneous prose and capture his stream of consciousness writing, based on what he had already learned and his skill as a writer, just jam. And that's what he worked to do. Gerald Nicosia writes in Memory Babe, his classic biography of Jack Kerouac, not until Visions of Cody did Kerouac master sentences based on phrases like bebop rebop and ubop shabama kugamop. These are bebop phrases that often end with a long-short pattern, which cannot be strictly represented in poetics by either an iamb or a dactyl, since long and short refer to the length of time a note is held. These guys, also Kerouac actually was well recognized within the jazz community for what he was doing. He actually cut an album with Zoot Sims where they traded 12-bar blues, and Zoot Sims would play 12 bars on his saxophone, and Kerouac would read poetry for 12 bars. So the jazz community kind of like accepted what he was doing. The beats in Kerouac were also influenced by James Joyce, who himself was an accomplished singer and pianist. Joyce not only wrote his novels with an extraordinary sense of musicality, but also invented new words to capture the sounds of the world around him and the sing-song accents of his Irish countrymen. So if we look at the first sentence of Finnegan's Wake, you can hear the music in this. River run past Eve and Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay, brings us by a commodious vicus of recirculation back to Howth Castle and environs. River Run, he starts off his entire tome of Finnegan's Wake with a triplet, okay? The power of the triplet. So a beautiful opening. River Run past Eve and Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay. The choice of words, swerve of shore to bend of bay, that gives you a natural swing to the eighth note. Because of the open O and shore to bend of bay, of shore to bend of bay, it swings the sound of the sentence, so it actually has a musical sense already. River run past Eve and Adams, from swerve of shore to bend of bay. Shortly after the opening comes the sentence, Rodapecapaz malt and gem or shen brewed by Arclight and Orient, the Regenbrau was to be seen ringsome on the aqua face. Nobody knows what this stuff means. I once went to a Finnegan's Wake study group at Venice Library, and we spent 4 hours reading 2 pages of Finnegan's Wake, and there was these weird characters, and it was in the library, and I was like, guys, how long have you guys been reading this? How long have you been doing this? And you know, one guy says, I've been reading The Wake for 30 years. I said, geez, how many times have you read it? He says, 3 times. So anyway, let's look at Rodapecapaz. Again, Rodapecapaz is 4/16 notes. Rodapecapaz. You get that open A, which gives you kind of something that anticipates the resolution of that sentence. Rodapecapaz. The beats were also influenced by T.S. Eliot, and his poetry definitely leads itself well to an examination musically. From the love song J.F. for Prufrock, Eliot uses tone, tempo, and a recurring thematic motif to create a fugue-like experience. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a patient etherized upon a table. Let us go through certain half-deserted streets, the muttering retreats. The whole poem sounds almost like a dirge with its slow, trudging, incessant drive, with the repetition of the words, let us go. So if we look at that, let us go through certain, again, the O sound gives you a point to give some syncopation in here, through certain half-deserted streets. There's the triplet, the muttering retreats, and then the sentence ends with the resolution, a moment to rest and take a breath. Just like Finnegan's Wake, Prufrock plays with alliteration to produce a sing-song musicality. Most noticeable in lines like, there will be time, to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. And in time yet for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of toast and tea. Hear that, visions and revisions before the taking of toast and tea. So you've got both the legato and the staccato together. The repetition of words and the repetition of sounds and words makes Eliot's classic work as much a song as it is a poem. Another influence of many writers is musically is Cummings, E.E. Cummings, and Todd said this is the only picture he ever seen of E.E. Cummings. He helped create a form of writing called jazz poetry, and this is quite evident in his poem called Hist Whist. Hist Whist, little ghost things, tiptoe, twinkle toe, little twitchy witches and tingling goblins, hobanob, hobanob, little hoppy happy toad in tweeds, tweeds, little itchy mousies, with scuttling eyes rustle and run and whisk. Cummings' words themselves are sounds that could easily pop from the muted trumpet of Miles Davis. Tiptoe Twinkle Toe, right from there. It's like, that's all staccato. It's all T's, it's all consonant. It's tiptoe twinkle toe. You know, that, you just can't hear that without thinking musically. I mean, the rhythm could have been, it wouldn't have been more musical if he had actually just directed it and put it in musical notation like this. Hobbanob, hobbanob, little hoppy happy toad and tweeds, another favorite sentence of mine. And this is very similar to Little Old Lady Got Mutilated Late Last Night. Hobbanob, hobbanob, two triplets, little hoppy happy toad in tweeds. Slowing down the escalation of the triplets with the eighth notes, and then the quarter note gives it a rest. There's another way you can also create tension in music, anticipation, tension, and then resolution. If you take like a musical scale, I'm gonna try to sing now. I'm a terrible singer, but if you just sing like C D E F G A B C, that's out of tune, but C D E F G A B C. Now if you just go C D E F G A B, yeah, right. You're waiting for it to hit that C and resolve. And in a lot of songs, musicians will play with that, and they will kind of skirt around the resolution and continue to bring this kind of anticipation of a resolution to the music. There's a lot of pop artists too. Eminem does this. They'll kind of play with that. There's a great song off of Pat Metheny's album Off Ramp. It's like a 20-minute song, and it starts in one key, and it just is wonderful, beautiful kind of music. And then at a certain point where you think it's going to resolve, what it does is it modulates to the next note. So now it's going D, E, F, G, H, I. No, there's no H, I. So, you know what I'm doing. It's been a long time since I studied music, right? So, but they modulate to the next note in the scale, and you feel the anticipation. Okay, we've upped it a little bit, but he doesn't resolve it. Pat Metheny continues to play in that key for a while, and then he modulates up, and 20 minutes later, it's this beautiful phrase that just goes da 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 bum bum, and it's the climax and the resolution, and then it kind of come down from that. You can do that also beyond the sentence, and you can do that in the paragraph and the chapter. Our esteemed Professor Todd asked me to find a selection of my own writing that where I use a lot of these techniques, where I'm using the legato, the staccato, and the escalating rhythm. So what I've chosen to do is something kind of like that Pat Metheny song, in that I've got a portion of Boulevard where I have a number of different paragraphs where the character Hayden Glass is remembering the cities he's visited in this country, and the women that he's met, and the experiences he's had in these places. And so it starts in Kalispell, Montana, and it goes to Annapolis, Maryland, and then Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I'm gonna read just the last two paragraphs of that, and so you can kind of get into the sense of the escalating rhythm, and then kind of where the resolution is. A little bit of water first. All right. Chicago, Illinois, on the mishmash of Navy Pier, the architectural obelisks like Art Deco cornstalks planted on all sides of the snaking river, the river pouring green on St. Patrick's Day, viewing it all from the rotating height of the carousel with giddy Chicago girls alive and humming electric, touching his arm and elbow and looking into his eyes with gazes slipping. A light alcohol mist sprang from their lips as they stared into his earlobes, searching again for the eyes with which to connect. Taxicab to Rush Street in a jazz club where a trio of black musicians slammed jazz harder than Hayden had ever heard, sax, upright bass, and drums. Never heard such wide, fat sounds like a Jackson Pollock painting, pushing the love in the air and sending Hayden back with a slightly chubby, big-titted redhead to the hostel, where international drunks snored through the banging, creaking bunk bed sex. Nashville, Tennessee, where music honky-tonked with a life force that threatened to shatter pub windows, where cowboy arms grabbed him by the elbow and pulled him into the smoky Michelob and Jim Beam dance floors with Conway Twitty sound-alikes and backup bands filled with young studio musicians wise to every form of music known to man. A heavy jazz dependency swinging the country upbeat like a fusion known only to Nashville. Better, unexpected, more sincere than anything he'd heard in New Orleans. Hayden hooking up with the Nashville black chick, line dancing, Ozark mountain music, pounding fiddles, harmonica washboard, vocals, spinning the two arm in arm, walking into early morning streets, echoing the sharp clap of her black cowboy boots to match the slender black legs and blue jeans miniskirt. Then to her apartment where they made love to Dizzy Gillespie, and when they were done, he nestled in a feather pillow and she stood lonely and sad to turn off the music and play Body and Soul herself on an upright piano. She kissed him and asked him to leave. He was on a Greyhound to New York City while he tried to remember if he had asked for her name. And so that's kind of using all of that stuff. Thank you. And this was, there's no real room for that kind of stuff in a crime novel, by the way. And I kind of had to fight my agent and editor to keep it in, but I'm glad it stayed. There's ways, how can we now, everyone else here who doesn't maybe have an education in music, try to find that aspect? And so here are kind of the main points. Learn from the writers who studied music by examining the musicality of their sentences, kind of the way that we've been discussing. Read novels out loud and identify where legato and staccato work together to create moving passages of musical prose. And choose words for their rhythm, building sentences out of words made from triplets to create a sense of forward movement. Then choose long vowel words that give the triplets a sense of resolution before moving on to the next sentence. I'm going to kind of leave you with the guy that really kind of got me into this style of writing. The passage I read was heavily influenced by Kerouac, in case you don't know. I first heard Kerouac, his writing in a documentary called What Happened to Kerouac, and I heard him speaking, I heard him reading his words in this one section of the documentary, and the words ended in this beautiful phrase, "You'll never be as happy as you are now in your quiltish, innocent, book-devouring, boyhood, immortal night," okay, which really spoke to me, obviously. I try to, whenever I'm not grounded, I read more Kerouac, I listen to Kerouac, read to find that grounding. And whenever I can, turn people on to Kerouac, to hear him actually speak, I take the opportunity to do that. You can see I'm quite the fan, kind of the obsessed fan of Jack Kerouac. I've stood outside of his home, his birth home in Lowell, Massachusetts, and I saw people on the upper floor looking down at me, thinking another one of those crazy beat guys. But what I want to leave you with his last 3 minutes, I want you to hear Kerouac read and see if you can sense that musicality in his writing, what he was trying to do. This is from On the Road. He's reading with Steve Allen playing piano alongside. This is 1959. Let's see if I can get this thing to work. Oh, and that didn't do it. Okay, I'm getting there, guys. This technology thing. There, come on.
A lot of people have asked me why did I write that book or any book. All the stories I wrote were true because I believed in what I saw. I was traveling west one time at the junction of the state line of Colorado, its arid western one, and the state line of poor Utah. I saw in the clouds huge and massed above the fiery golden desert of even fall, a great image of God with forefinger pointed straight at me. Through halos and rolls and gold folds that were like the existence of a gleaming spear in his right hand, which saith, "Come on, boy, go thou across the ground. Go moan for man. Go moan. Go groan. Go groan alone. Go roll your bones alone. Go thou and be little beneath my sight. Go thou and be minute as seed in the pod. Go thou, die hence. And of this world report you well and truly." Anyway, I wrote the book because we're all gonna die. In the loneliness of my life, my father dead, my brother dead, my mother far away, my sister and my wife far away. Nothing here but my own tragic hands that once were guarded by a world and a sweet attention. that now are left to guide and disappear their own way into the common dark of all our death? Sleeping in me raw bed alone and stupid, with just this one pride and consolation? My heart broke in a general despair and opened up inwards to the Lord. I made a supplication in this dream. So in the last page of On the Road, I describe how the hero, Dean Moriarty's coming to see me all the way from the West Coast just for a day or two. We've just been back and forth across the country several times in cars, and now our adventures are over. We're still great friends, but we have to go into later phases of our lives. So there he goes, Dean Moriarty, ragged in the moth-eaten overcoat he brought especially for the freezing temperatures of the East, walking off alone, and last I saw him, he rounded the corner of 7th Avenue, eyes on the street ahead, and bent to it again. Gone. So, in America, when the sun goes down, and I sit on the old broken-down river pier watching the long, long skies over New Jersey, and sense all that raw land that rolls in one unbelievable huge bulge over the West Coast, and all that road going, and all the people dreaming in the immensity of it. And now I know by now that children must be crying in the land where they let the children cry. And tonight the stars will be out. And don't you know that God is Pooh Bear? The evening star must be drooping and shedding her sparkler dims on the prairie, which is just before the coming of complete night that blesses the earth, darkens all the rivers, cups the peaks, and folds the final shore in. And nobody knows what's going to happen to anybody besides the forlorn rags of growing old. Think of Dean Moriarty, or even think of old Dean Moriarty, the father we never found. Think of Dean Moriarty, I think of Dean Moriarty.
I think of Dean Moriarty. That is death, my friends. Thank you.